Hi everybody. Today we're going to do an unboxing and assembly on a new antenna from Televes. It's been built for the repack. It's actually been redesigned. 148-383 is the part number. It's a DAT DAT LR long range antenna, and it's been actually really redesigned for the repack. And what I mean by that is it stops picking up after channel 36 because there's no need for an antenna that picks up after channel 36 because the repack did away with all the upper channels. So we're going to go ahead and pop the box open. This is a pretty good packaging, by the way. It's been double boxed. I requested it be double boxed simply because damage, and yours may come this way, it may not come this way. With the extra box on the outside, and that's okay because it's still packed. They're still packaged pretty good. This is my second one because these two are going to replace my other old-fashioned antennas. And so this is the actual box, how you might receive it. All right, so this is actually the older design. Apparently the box is still going to be redesigned. That's okay. I didn't buy it for the box, but I sure think it's a nice box. All right, so I got my cameraman Sasha here. What he's going to do, he's going to climb up. Oh, look, there's another strip here. I'll be damned. He's going to take an overhead view of what comes in the box. And again, it's all packaged together pretty tight, so there's not much movement. This is European engineering. I got to tell you, it's good that people think things out. So these are the new VHF HI Elements. They're actually double the number now of elements. And it also has very good performance. I've already tested one, and I'm pretty happy with it. These are the new Vhf Low Elements. On the previous antenna, the 148-381, there was only one pair of these. Now we have two pairs, and we'll get into those in a little while too. Now you have your booms, which we're going to work with right away. Your main set. This is your main section here. We have a dipole and preamp. You can see the preamp is built in directly into the dipole. There's no actual wiring. It's just basically attached directly to the dipole. And here's where your coax cable is going to go. They give you this. It's actually a twist-on connector. I really don't use those, but it's there in case you do. And we're going to put that to the side too. These are the bottom boom braces. We'll be using those. Here's the VHF Low extension. And we'll be getting back to this later. Here's the VHF Low. We're going to call these phasing strips. That's what they are. They're to attach the two element sets together, and then they will attach directly to the dipole, and we'll get to that later also. And of course, we have the reflectors, which will probably be one of the last things we put on. They've revised the reflectors too, by the way. They're a little bit larger. I believe there's one more tube on this particular reflector compared to the previous model, the 148 381, and this is the 148 383. And we're doing this in my basement because the weather has changed for the worse outside. Here in Illinois, winter comes November, October. All right, so these are the boom braces, two of them. The most important thing, the instructions. And I'll explain more to you why that's really so important, because there are a few people that have put these together wrong and couldn't understand why the performance was off, and that was because some things were put where they shouldn't be put. So okay. Now we're doing this video in my basement because the weather has changed outside for the worse. The days are shorter. It's cold out, and it's not good weather to put an antenna on together outside. So we've got these European style instructions. And the first thing you should probably do is take a look here, make sure you've got all your pieces, parts and pieces. I would say just go over this when you get yours. You know, get it out of the box, take a look, make sure everything that you think you should have is there. In this box, there's quite a bit of things. These are really are a few things that for VHF, low and high, some brackets. These are pretty cool, the Zamac brackets. It's a zinc alloy. It's very strong, pretty strong metal. It's not actually pot metal in the sense it's pot metal, but it's similar. It's just stronger. It's a better alloy. And of course, you got your clamp braces. In this box is the last part you'll need, and that's going to be your power supply for your preamp, power supply and power cord. Of course, you'll be saving that part for last. So all right, so here we are. We've got ourselves organized here. What I did was took all my bolts, I counted them. There's actually a few extra, especially the smaller ones. nuts. I counted them all out. I organized them so that later on I'm not like, hey, is it this bolt or that bolt or what? I've got AEs, ADs, ACs, and so on. Everything's been organized. I shouldn't have to hunt for the screws that I want. And now we're going to go and take a look at the instructions. They show you putting the top boom on first, so that's what we're going to do. So we got this nice little square here. I'm going to slide that in. Now here's the trick with these carriage bolts. You'll see they have like a little square. That's what makes them a carriage bolt. They have a register to them. What you're going to do, you're going to push it through. I don't think it matters which side. Just going to hold it tight there with your thumb. Finger. I'm going to go ahead and get it started. And the interesting thing about these carriage bolts, they will make their own way. And I've got the tool that they give you. And what we're going to do, we're going to hold this together. And what you can see, if you want to move the camera down here, you'll see it's pulling in tight now. And this is a part number AC carriage bolt. I'm just going to tighten it in. It's already in there good. It's already made its way. Okay. That's a AC and the nut is a Y. Alright, here we go with the middle boom. Slide this back a little bit. Here's the middle boom. And they're calling this B2. Alright, we got it in there. We have our carriage bolt, which is AD. It's a little bit longer than the AC that we just put in the other boom, because this boom is a little bit wider. It's kind of like the support, the main support boom. Now again, I'm just going to tighten this all the way in. You don't leave the head up. And it'll find its way in. And that's why you don't have to use a wrench on the other side with the carriage bolt. And I could use a ratchet or something like that, but I'm just going to go ahead and use the tool that Televes supplies with the antenna. And it's just about tight. Use common sense, people. When you tighten up these bolts, you don't have to crush the whole boom. Okay. Now that was B2. We're on to B3, the bottom boom. And you can tell the bottom boom is always shorter. Got our AC carriage bolt again. Gonna push that through. Gonna hold it tight. Start the nut by hand. No big deal. And we're going to use the wrench again, the Televes wrench. Like I said, I could probably do this faster with a ratchet, or even air tools, or electric drill, or something like that, but I'm not going to do that today. Now this one's being a little bit tougher. You can probably see in the camera, it's not pulled tight yet. So we're just going to keep tightening it. And it looks like it's pulled tight, and that's a good thing. Okay, so moving right along. The next step, as the instructions are showing us, we're going by the instructions. We've got the 3 booms assembled. Now this is going to be the trickiest part, I think, is getting all these screw holes to line up with these curved pieces. Still, it's not too bad. What I found was, you're going to want to put you can put the middle piece and just push the screw through, and it'll everything will kind of stay there. there's enough flexibility in these booms, I should be able to lift it up. Okay, I can see now already that there's no way that this screw is going to line up with that hole. No big deal. I'm going to pull this. I'm going to work this boom backwards until it looks like it's close. And you can kind of take a peek through. It's still not quite lined up, no big deal. They show you in the instructions, generally speaking, the bottom boom will be pushed all the way back in this slot. And I feel it feels like the screw is going to make it through the hole. Yes. Okay. Now in this case, I'm just going to get the screws to start going through the holes because I still want to be able to get that screw in. I'm going to move around to the other side here to the top boom. Now, again, they show you in the instructions that you're going to need to pull the top boom forward. And like I said, you can take a little peek in there. Take a look. And I believe it just popped in. Okay, good. Okay, I've got these started. All right, next thing I'm going to flip it over. Actually, I don't think I'll flip it over this time, simply because I need to screw it from the top. So I'll just kind of try to line these up. And these actually will kind of snap together also. It's kind of a precision fit. I like it. A lot of you antenna people will appreciate the fact that this is made of plastic. And the reason for that is maybe there won't be any interference from the boom. The plastic boom is better to use. Plastic brace is better to use than, say, a metal brace. It may cause some problems with the reception. I don't know. They say if it's vertical, it's close to the boom, it won't cause any problems, even if it is metal. But this is going to be durable, long lasting. Okay, so it's going along quite well. Next, we're going to put the braces on. According to the instructions, they show the braces here, and you're going to see that the braces, the curve in the brace goes towards the back of the antenna, and that's exactly how we're going to install it. We're going to use AE. We've got 4 of those AE and 4 of the Y, which is a flange nut, and so we're going to go ahead and get those in. Same deal. Matter of fact, if you look, the hole that's punched in this brace is actually already square, or square-ish, so it should pull tight faster. AE. I'm going to go ahead and put them on by hand first. Get things started. I got my Zamac wrench. And you see, this isn't taking too long at all, especially if you're organized and you keep your instructions by you. Don't skip any steps. Don't try to outsmart the engineers. You'll be in a lot better shape to get this done quickly. One thing I do like to do, the only thing I like better than putting an antenna together is putting an antenna up. But with the weather outside right now, we're going to have to pass on that. But we will do a video on that. Common sense. Common sense. When you tighten stuff, make sure you watch what you're doing. If you have to be ham-handed or the Incredible Hulk and you can't tell how tight things are getting, then just kind of watch what you're doing and make sure you don't crush anything. That's all. Alright. So, what we have now is a completed front section. And it's looking like an antenna now. Alright. So, our next set of tasks on the instructions are going to be to put the brackets on. You can do that now or you can do it later. It's not a big deal, but I tell you what, if you're not careful, you can put these brackets on wrong, and you'll be sorry you did when you're, 40 feet up a tower or whatever, however you're installing it. So what I like to do, I take one bolt out, I'm going to put it on the boom, I'm going to put it like this. To be honest, it's a matter of convenience which side of the brace that you put this on. But if you want it balanced, you can look at the picture. It goes right about here. You can count the elements. Just take a look at the picture. And this is what I would call a double adjustable clamp that you can adjust it forward or rearward, and you can also change the angle of the antenna. So, for example, if you've got some trees or a building or some obstruction and you absolutely have to aim the antenna that way, you can angle it upwards. Now they give you in the bag. They give you a couple of these spacers. I'm going to call them spacers. They probably have a name. But you're going to need both of these. Okay, so I have these spacers. I actually couldn't find them because they were intermixed with one of the other black parts in the bag. And I thought they were missing, and well, boo-hoo. But what we're going to do, we're just going to cinch these up. Because you're going to tighten them all the way tight once you get them up on your mast and you get it where you want. Then you'll tighten them. I'm just gonna snug them. That's it. Again, just take one bolt out. You don't have to take the other one out. Take the one bolt out and you can just swing it. By the way, the clamp is universal. It's the same whether it's this way or this way. So you don't have to worry about doing that the correct way because it's reversible. Okay. And like I said, you can put this on and just snug things up. Not a big deal. Just get your bolt in, get it started. And the reason I like to snug them is I don't want them flopping around and running to one end of the brace to the other. So I'm just going to snug it just to where I can slide it. When I go to put it on the mast, it should be good to go. Okay. All right, so what's left now? We've got the very next step. We are going to put these, turn the instructions the right way. That's the very next step. They're showing me the, this is the reflector bracket, and it's also a VHF low bracket or VHF high bracket. They're showing this going on next, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to turn the antenna here, which is a little easier to work on. And we've got these 4 brackets. Each one is 2 halves. You've got the through hole, and then you've got the threaded hole. And all right, so the next step, we're going to put the reflectors on. So we're going to need to put the bracket on, the rear bracket. There's 2 halves, and what we have here. So what these things do is they actually lock the reflector in, and so you can take these reflectors off and on at will. So whenever you decide you need to take them off, for example, putting the dipole or the preamp on, you'll be able to do that. And so what we do, we slide these in, and then you'll actually push this and click. That's how you know it's right. By the way, I've seen some guys put these reflectors on backwards. The way you tell the part that faces the outside, either at the bottom or at the top, it has a cover, a little plastic cover. And so now we're going to slide this one in. Okay, and you'll know the reflector's in when the hole lines up, and then you push the black plastic clip, click. They even show you that on the instructions. So now, right now, this would be your VHF only or UHF only antenna. But we're going to make this into a VHF high and VHF low antenna because that's the way it's designed. That's what we want. So now we're down to page 3 on the instructions, and we have done this part, and now we're looking at the rear part, which C, if you look at C, C is that long boom extension. So we're going to find C. We got C here. Here's C. We're going to slide in C. And I believe we're going to use the last. Don't mix these up, by the way, because it's a pain if you take them out and you put too long of one in the boom and have to take it back out because one of your screws comes up short. They're calling for AD. This is AD. And we're going to put it through on this side because all the other ones are like that. And here's your flange nut. The nice thing about the reflector, it actually kind of holds the antenna up for you, gives you a nice surface. So you can build this on a table if you want to. Now I'm going to go ahead, you can see the long boom is the top boom. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hold this up when I tighten it down because gravity is going to pull it down. And from my experience, it's not going to hurt to really tighten this down good. You can't really crush the metal too far because the adapter inside is supporting the metal. So we've got this one installed, and now we're going to go with the next Vhf bracket, I believe. We can do that now. We got our handy little bag of parts. If I look at the other one, I look at this one, you'll see how that goes. Now that we've got one built, we know where these clips, we're just going to call them clips. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and fold them in because they seem a little bit less floppy that way. Now this might be a little trickier putting it on with the boom is vertical, excuse me, horizontal, and just try to get everything lined up the best you can. So far so good. So far so good. By the way, it doesn't matter if you have it this way or that way. There is no upside down or right side up with these. They're symmetrical, and so you can do put it on either way. Whichever way is more convenient for you to bolt it, do it. Now, quick trick. As you can see, We've got the bracket on, and we're already doing the VHF Low, and we've got these cool brackets. Again, these are symmetrical, so that's what I kind of like about that. You can't put the right side on upside down or left, whatever. So now, if Sasha wants to bring the camera over here and go above, you can see how the hole lines up. And I got the holes basically lined up. You can see through the bottom. Okay. And I'm just going to use a little screwdriver to line everything up. I can see that it's not lined up perfectly. So this little screwdriver helped me line things up perfectly. Now, we've got the longer bolts. And they're calling these longer bolts AG. Like I said, you can use a screwdriver as a lineup tool. A little bit of a tap to get it through. Okay, so she's going through, but what is going on is she's threading through the plastic a little bit, and that's okay. All right. Now, in the instructions, they'll tell you that you use a nut X. That's a nut without a washer. You can use that. Put it underneath. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it on its side so that we can get a better view. You know, it's a little bit awkward, but not bad. It's a fight to the finish. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to hold the nut there. Hold the nut with my just fingertip pressure. I'm not looking to cross thread, anything like that. I'm just going to turn it in, and it's starting to thread onto the nut. Okay. I can hold it a little bit with my finger and get it close, but what I'll tell you is it's not a bad idea to have two of these. Or just get a 10mm wrench from your toolbox and a ratchet, and you can do it that way too. Alright, again, common sense. Tight is tight, good enough. Alright, so now we have same thing for the back. Then these are for the VHF Low for the elements. I'm just kind of put them part of the way on. I'm going to use my screwdriver, my little Phillips screwdriver, as a lineup tool. Try to put these on evenly to start with so I don't have trouble pushing the bolt through. And then I'll take the screwdriver maybe and wallow it a little bit. Of course, this one's lined up a little better, so it's going right through. There, I was able to push that. Now I got an extra flange nut, so guess what? I'm going to use that. I like a flange nut better, and I found out that the flange nut fits on the last one I did, so I'd rather use a flange nut simply because it takes up a little more of the area of pressure. All right. Okay, so here's the part that some of you might not be familiar with if you've never put one of these together. But these are the VHF Low Elements. They're 4 identical, so you don't have to worry too much. And occasionally you might see a little burr or something on there. That's okay. If they're not too bad, you can leave them alone. If you see a little bit too much of a burr, just you can take a knife. And remember, if you're cutting towards you, keep a distance. And you could also, it's most important on the inside. You can also take the knife, just give them a quick thing and prep. This is not bad, so what we're going to do is get the little clamps ready. And alright, so this is the dipole we talked about with the preamp, and I'm going to clip this on because it's going to become important here in a few minutes. And what you'll do, it fits on this middle boom, and it fits pretty tight against the boom. That's good. That's great. And now it's just slide on, it snaps on. Later on, when I want to put the coax on, I can take this bottom reflector off because it unclips. You know, I can give you an example. On this top reflector, you just lift it up. Takes a little bit of force, and you'll have to wiggle it out a little bit. And you can take that off. We would do that on the lower boom, or the lower reflector, excuse me, when it's time. Okay, so it's time to put the VHF Low Elements on. You can see I've got my parts here. There's something called a shorting bar, but that's what they call it in some circles. But Televes, I believe we're calling it phasing strips. And that's going to connect this set of elements to the preamp right here. But that'll come a little bit later when we get this installed. So, first thing we're going to do, make sure that this lines up correctly. And we're going to put the clamp, a full-size clamp, on the top. With these letter A screws. I'm just going to put them in loosely for now, just enough to keep them where they need to be. And here's another VHF Low Element. You see why I left it loose, so I can get this to slide in here. Again, we'll take another letter A screw, put it in. If everything lines up right, they'll screw together pretty good. And now we can go ahead and tighten these down on the top only. And the reason for that is we've got some work to do underneath. Now it's going to be easier for me to flip the whole antenna over, but that's not going to be easy thing to do with how long these elements are. So I'm going to have to lift it up high. Got to be careful. It's aluminum, it will bend. And so now we've got it turned upside down. And these are the phasing strips. This is going to combine the front VHF Low Elements with the preamp. And here's a very important, I can't stress this enough, and you can, it's one of those situations, ask me how I know. You've got to use the half clamps or quarter clamps or whatever you want to call them. Because if you use a long clamp, if you use this here, what you'll be doing, in essence, you'll be shorting the whole element out, and it won't give you any VHF low. So what we want to do, want to get these lined up. And remember, we're working on the bottom side of the antenna for now. Also, I found out that you'll have to thread the screw all the way through the phasing strip because the hole is tight, and that's okay. No biggie. And you'll see that I have the antennas upside down, so the angle is actually going to be pointing down. Okay. And I've cinched that up. I didn't make it totally tight because I want some movement when I do attach it to the dipole up front. Again, making sure everything's lined up right. You can see it's going to line up pretty good. Everything is machined or precision manufactured. Like I said, I can't stress this enough how very important it is to get this right. Remember, just cinch the bolts up, don't make them totally tight. Now here's where the tiny little screws go. Again, back to the instructions for referral. Screw number AA and W. AA and W. A and W. One of my favorites. Okay. And I don't know if it matters, but I'm just going to double check to say which way the screw goes through. And they do show the screw coming in from the back side. And I'm putting it through there. This nut, a little tricky. A little bit tricky because it's so small. And later on I'll come back and I'll cinch these up by hand. And you know, this is a perfect time to show you why these reflectors are mounted the way they are. Push in on the tab, lift the clip up, wiggle the reflector out, and now we've got access to this that we didn't have before. That's a beautiful thing. I'd like to meet the guy who invented that because that's pretty good. I'm sure we'd have a great conversation. I'll have to brush up on my Spanish because, as you may or may not know, Televes is a company based out of Spain. And one of my friends at Televes tells me the rain in Spain does not fall on the plane. So keep that in mind. He said it's absolutely the opposite. So Now we've got that done. I'm going to come around this way, and you can walk in front of me. You know, I know this is a long video, and I get it. I probably could have cut some stuff out. You know, but I kind of wanted to show you what I've run into putting these things together. Okay. Now you could just use a pair of pliers if you want, or you could use a socket. I'm going to come back to that in a couple minutes, because now it's time to do the rear elements, and also too, it's not going to hurt anything to tighten these up right now. Because I've got everything lined up. See that? Okay, later on I'm going to come back with the socket for that. Alright, we're going to put the VHF high elements in now. We already set the bracket up. We're just going to slide them in. I'm just doing this now as a matter of convenience. I just feel like I would rather have these on before I install the rear VHF Low Elements. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to put these in, and again, just push them all the way up. They'll go up into the register there, and then here we go. Listen for the click. There you go. Click, click. All right. So what's left to do? We've got the rear VHF Low Elements, and we're gonna do that quickly. So somebody's up late on a school night, making it happen. That's what we're doing, right, Sash? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now we're keeping in mind the antenna's turned upside down, but it doesn't matter. On the rear VHF Low Element, everything is symmetrical. You don't have those phasing bars, phasing strips that you have to worry about. So again, leave this one loose, but not too loose. Just enough to get the tube of the other one in. And we're gonna back up a little bit, and we're gonna put this element in. So once you get this screw started, you can run it all the way in, because you don't need to come back to it. We don't need to leave it loose for any reason, because we have both elements in. again, you're screwing into plastic. Use some common sense. Okay, once again, we're going to have to carefully flip the antenna up. I'm going to pick it up, lift it up, I'm going to roll it over, hit the ceiling. Yep, that's how long these elements are. Wasn't planning on that happening, but seven feet of element is a lot. And being extra careful. There you go. I recommend, if you put one of these together, clear out a place in your garage, because this thing's about as big as a small car when you're done. I'm putting the screw in. Everything's lining up perfectly. That's a nice thing. Now on this, we're going to go ahead, we're going to leave this one a little bit looser so we can slide that under instead of in. And again, one last time for the common sense rule. You're screwing it into plastic. Plastic was very easy to strip. You don't want to strip it. And last but not least, we're going to put the bottom reflector back in. Awkward. We could leave this off for the installation, which would be cool, because it gives you a little bit of room. But there you go, complete. Thanks for watching.